Today, we are diving into one of the most intense and honestly heartbreaking family dramas you will ever find. It comes straight out of the second book of Samuel. This is the story of a king, his favorite son, and a civil war that literally tore a nation apart. And let me tell you, this isn't just some dusty old story. It's a raw, unfiltered look at power, betrayal, and a kind of grief that's hard to imagine. Everything, and I mean everything, is on the line. You have a son, Absalom, who is handsome, charming, and incredibly ambitious, and he has managed to turn the hearts of the people against his own father, King David. So as David is forced to literally run for his life from his own capital city, the fate of an entire kingdom is just hanging by a thread. So, to really get a grip on how this whole tragedy unfolds, we're going to walk through it in 5 key acts. We'll be covering chapters 16 through 20 of 2 Samuel, starting with David's desperate escape and following all the way through to the very fragile peace that comes after. Okay, so our story kicks off with the king at his absolute lowest point. I mean, think about it. This is David, the giant slayer, the celebrated hero of Israel, and now he's a fugitive, running from Jerusalem with just a handful of loyal followers. And it's right here, in this moment of total weakness, that you start to see people's true colors come out. First up, he meets a guy named Ziba. Ziba shows up with gifts, supplies. He looks like a loyal friend, but he almost immediately uses this opportunity to lie about his master, trying to grab his property. So while Ziba's loyalty is all a sham, the next guy David meets, Shimei, he doesn't pretend at all. He comes out throwing stones, kicking up dust, and just screaming curses at David, blaming him for the fall of King Saul's entire family. Now, what's truly mind-blowing here is David's reaction. His general, Abishai, is ready to go and take Shimei's head off right then and there, but David stops him. He just humbly accepts the curse. He even suggests that maybe this is from God, a consequence for his own past sins. It's a pretty stunning moment of a leader looking at a deeper spiritual reality, even while his world is falling apart. Meanwhile, back in Jerusalem, the political chess game is heating up. David's loyal friend Hushai shows up and pretends to switch sides. He's going deep undercover as a spy in Absalom's inner circle. At the same time, Absalom's chief advisor, a brilliant strategist named Ahithophel, gives him some truly shocking advice. Go and publicly sleep with your father's concubines. This was a huge symbolic act, basically declaring the throne is mine, and it slammed the door shut on any possibility of reconciliation. And this leads us right into the next critical moment. The war for Israel is about to be won or lost, not on a battlefield, but inside a counseling room, where 2 advisors offer 2 very, very different ways forward. So first, Ahithophel lays out a brilliant, ruthless plan. Take a small, elite force and strike David tonight while he's exhausted and vulnerable. It would have been over in a flash. But then Hushai, David's spy, steps up. He completely plays to Absalom's ego. He paints this picture of a huge, glorious army, with Absalom himself leading the charge. It sounded epic, but it would take weeks to assemble, giving David the exact breathing room he desperately needed. And Absalom, totally blinded by pride, falls for it. He chooses Hushai's flattering but ultimately foolish plan. Now, the text here frames this decision not just as a political mistake, but as a moment of divine intervention. It's as if God himself is steering Absalom towards his own doom. Ahithophel was so sharp, he knew the second his advice was rejected that the rebellion was toast. He didn't wait around. He just calmly rode home, got his affairs in order, and took his own life. He saw the end of the story before anyone else even had a clue. So, that delay bought by Hushai's clever advice, well, it sets the stage for the inevitable bloody climax. David has had time to regroup and gather his forces. The final battle for the kingdom is about to go down in a place called the Wood of Ephraim. But even as he's sending his armies out to fight for his life, David's heart is completely torn. His final order to his generals, Joab, Abishai, and Ittai, isn't about military strategy. It's about his son. It's this desperate plea from a father to spare the life of the very man who's trying to kill him. The battle is an absolute catastrophe for Absalom's forces. 20,000 men are killed. The dense forest itself basically becomes a trap, causing more deaths than the actual fighting. This is the devastating, horrifying cost when a family conflict explodes into a national war. And then we get one of the most famous and, frankly, bizarre scenes in the entire Bible. Absalom, who was famous for his long, beautiful hair, a symbol of his pride, his vanity, is fleeing on his mule when that very hair gets tangled in the branches of a huge oak tree, leaving him just dangling, helpless between heaven and earth. A soldier finds Absalom like this and tells General Joab. And Joab, well, he's a pragmatist. He has no time for sentiment. For him, the stability of the kingdom comes before the king's feelings. He ignores David's order, takes 3 darts, and ends Absalom's life and the rebellion right then and there. When the news gets back to David, there's no celebration, no joy in victory. There is only the raw, uncontrollable agony of a father who's just lost his son. His cry is one of the most powerful expressions of grief you will ever read. The king is completely shattered by his personal loss. So the war is over, but the work of healing a broken kingdom, that's just getting started. David now has to somehow navigate his own overwhelming grief while trying to piece together a nation that was fractured by his own family. But David's intense mourning actually turns the victory celebration into a day of shame for his own loyal soldiers. His general Joab has to confront him, and he doesn't mince words. He forces David to choose. Are you going to be a grieving father, or are you going to be a victorious king? Joab basically tells him, if you don't stop mourning the enemy and start honoring your friends, you're going to lose this kingdom all over again. So David pulls himself together and gets back to the business of reconciliation. As he travels home, his journey is marked by these really key encounters. You can see it here. He shows mercy to Shimei, the man who cursed him, and gives him a pardon. He tries to find a political middle ground with Mephibosheth, splitting the disputed land, and he honors the wealthy Barzillai who had faithfully supported him. In each case, you can see him trying to be a king of both justice and forgiveness. But the deep, deep divisions in the kingdom are still simmering right below the surface. A bitter argument explodes between David's own tribe of Judah and the other 10 tribes of Israel. It's this jarring reminder that winning a battle doesn't magically heal old wounds. The northern tribes feel sidelined, and that bitterness is about to boil over. Right. David is barely back on his throne when another rebellion just ignites, proving that Absalom's death didn't solve the real problem, which was a deeply divided nation. This troublemaker, a guy named Sheba, he seizes the moment. He blows a trumpet and yells this rallying cry. And just like that, the men of Israel desert David, and a brand new civil war kicks off. Joab's response is exactly what you'd expect: brute military force. He chases Sheba to a walled city and gets ready to just batter the wall down. But before he can, this unnamed wise woman calls out from the city wall. She contrasts Joab's path of destruction with a path of wisdom. She negotiates a deal, she convinces her own people, and they literally deliver Sheba's head over the wall, saving their entire city not with force, but with wise words. And that leaves us with this final, really profound question. This whole saga, from David running for his life to this new rebellion, it shows the devastating ripple effect of sin and division. It shows us that even when there's forgiveness, even when there's victory, the road back to true unity is always complicated, always painful, and it always, always comes at a staggering cost.